Welcome to Vision India at 75, an Amrit Mahotsav series of Vision India Forum. Monologue series, we welcome Mr. Rajeev Talwar, the former CEO of DLF, the real estate giant, the creator of that great empire called Gurugram, or Gurgaon, as we formerly used to know it as, and the former president of PSD Chamber of Commerce and Industry, one of India's leading chambers of commerce and industry for policy advocacy and national unity, integrity, and growth. PSD Chamber of Commerce and Industry also is home to most of the top industry leaders across the country. Mr. Rajeev Talwar is a known name in those corridors, and Mr. Talwar today will be speaking to us in the monologue series of Amrit Mahotsav, which is to celebrate 75 years of India's glorious history and lay a roadmap for the next 25 years of India's growth story. Urban India, real estate, is inextricably linked to the growth of any nation. India is no different. And Mr. Talwar knows the entire sector by the back of his hand. He knows the sector in and out. He knows the vagaries of the game. He knows, like the fish knows to water, it is like a baby which he is nurtured over years. And he will be speaking to us about rental space. Why rental space today can play a very important role in India's real estate and urban development. Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana, these are some of the important schemes of the government of India for the affordable housing, which the Ministry of Housing, Urban and Poverty Alleviation has been driving us. Today morning, speaking to Mr. Durgashankar Mishra. He shall be on the board with us very soon on New Urban India. Today, probably a curtain raiser through Mr. Rajeev Talwar. Over to you, sir. Rental housing in India, Amrit Mahotsav, India 75 years.
Thank you, Amit, and thank you, Vision India Forum. Yes, the vision for the next 25 years, we are at the crossroads of 75 years of independence, and therefore the effort led by the Prime Minister and all the, I must say, everyone else, that India should rise up to be one of the premium and the premier countries of the world. This is an ancient civilization which ruins have been found below sea level to show that we've had cities which were in existence from something like 9,000 years to 32,000 years. And this is done by his channel, not by us to say that this is where India belonged and this is where India was. Therefore, in fact, they're saying that a number of things which were actually thought to be mythological may have existed in India during its golden period. Therefore, this is a country which we should all look forward to. And as I think the Prime Minister in his own vision, perhaps every leader in India in their vision says that we are people who are born, many of us are born after independence. And we look forward to being what? We look forward to a personality which is Indians first and Indians to the last. Any other identity comes later. We know the borders of this country and those are sacrosanct for us. Those are something which is non-compromisable. Therefore, now to come into the project and the vision which I have for India, as you very rightly said, urban India is something which will determine, like every other nation, how India progresses, how it goes up in GDP, how it raises the standard of living of people within India, actually rendered powerless as a nation by colonial rule and others. And this has been going on for many centuries. But the idea now is that just as the standard of Indians has risen, we need to make it absolutely a country of the developed world as soon as possible. In this, cities will play a very major role. You know that there has been a smart city mission. There has been other missions which are now cleaning up cities, with giving more housing to cities. But it has always been about ownership of homes. You know that a home, a pakka home at that, is not only a great financial security, but it is also a huge emotional security. The pandemic has brought forward to us how people who were living in shanties and jhuggies and unauthorized colonies had to go away to their villages. And that was a sight which was very difficult for all Indians to bear, especially when we come on to millennials who will be coming into their age and making India right now, which it is, one of the youngest nations by population and in their age group. This is a place and this is a country where many, many more Indians, larger than perhaps any other country in the world, will be the youngest nation for years to come and will be adding a huge number of people to the working population. So we need to provide homes for that. And to make homes, just to give you an idea, we probably think that the population of India by 2040 and 50 will be 1.4 billion. Out of that, about 870 million people will be staying in cities. If that is true, then we are not going to allow, and we should dream of a country which will not allow 50% of the population either staying in slum clusters or unauthorized colonies. Now, everyone cannot start investing into a home and have and own a home as early as possible and as soon as they start working. Many of the millennials are now looking forward to ease of mobility. There's a job in one place at one point of time. Very soon it could be in another corner of the country, in another part of the country, and therefore mobility will become a huge factor for the youngsters who are millennials now. As it is, as you know, that the government of India has already started a program which in the last 4 to 5 years has constructed 1 crore 12 lakh dwelling units of 300 square feet only carpet area. What it means is 1 BHK in Bombay language, which is 1 bedroom, a big hall, independent WC, independent bath, and 1 kitchen. Will it be possible for everyone to own such a place in the near future? It may not be possible. And while this program is going on, the government has allocated this year 48,000 crores for 80 lakh homes. Now, this will be a program for people who already have some kind of a dwelling unit and can make it pakka and live in a permanent house. But for everyone, if we expect the poor, that if everyone will start owning a home and living there, then they will get rooted. Because very often in the informal sector, jobs are not permanent. They change from region to region, state to state, and another one part of the country to another. Therefore, what and wherein lies the answer? To me, it is very clear that while those who can afford will buy their homes made by developers, made by others, but for large populations, which is almost 50% if we take it as our responsibility today, by 2040-50, when 870 million people are going to live in cities, we need to provide homes for 400 million, which is 40 crore people. If you take 5 people to a family, it means 8 crore homes have to be made. Already, the Prime Minister's program and the Government of India program under the Housing Minister and Urban Affairs Minister, Mr. Hardeep Puri, is providing for 2 crore such homes. But we also know that in this area and in this issue, land has to be priced as almost zero. Because that is how, when you put aside for a 300 square feet carpet area home, the price at 2000 rupees per square foot will come to about 6 lakhs. And if you take the super area, which is the corridors, the adjunct area, then the cost will be about 7,50,000 for per home. So therefore, we are looking at a huge, almost something like $500 billion to about $1 trillion. That means multiply, if 1 crore homes are made by 7,50,000 crores, then we need multiples of that. But that is a challenge which India has to face if we are to provide good, clean living to our citizens. When we raise our GDP to something like 20 to 40 trillion dollars per year, that is what India has to look forward to. And a method will have to be found that all the occupants of these smallest of homes do not sell these as a tradable paper and return back to their slums. So, what is the answer? According to me, the big answer lies that if we can use the lands, surplus lands owned by the government, the public sector undertakings, state governments, state public sector undertakings, and in many cases, defense lands, those are to be made into homes of 300 square feet on a rental basis. And today we can do it. India has shown the fact that we can digitize so well that we can actually provide a list of people living in each home and then paying a rent which is not only minimal but so easy to think of that nobody thinks of avoiding that, encashing the rental home and going back to slums. So I'm in fact thinking that if we can make 8-storied homes only, 8-storied because the higher the number of floors, the greater is the use of technology. And after 10 floors, there is a quantum jump in technology use. Therefore, if we keep it like many of the buildings currently existing in Delhi, which are 8 to 10 stories, in Mumbai along the Marine Drive, they are 8 to 10 stories. So why not provide for homes which are easily livable and easily affordable by the poorest of the poor? Now, what does it mean, poorest of the poor and those who are in the working population? My own idea is that we would be charging, if India embarks on such a mission, the idea of rent would be anywhere from 50 rupees a day to about 150 rupees a day if corporates take it on rental basis. We need to ensure that whether he's the vegetable seller, whether he's a casual worker, whether he's just a person who sits on the pavement, he should be able to earn enough to give some kind of security to his family and therefore have an affordable rental home option. So the scheme that I would like to call is something called RAHO, RAHO. What does it mean? It means a rental affordable housing option. If it is 50 rupees, you can very well imagine that a crore homes made at a cost of 7,50,000 crores, which is a very, very big amount. But it would also yield at the rate of 50 rupees per daily rent, 18,000 rupees per annum, and for 1 crore homes, 18,000 crores. Now, that may not be a very good return for anyone, any country, any fund around the world, and any fund available in India, as a good return on investment. Therefore, the idea would be that can we think of a rental from corporates who take it for their factory workers, and everyone must ensure that they do provide rental homes to their factory workers, to their enterprise workers, to their daily wage workers on a basis that they deducted from their salary. And if that becomes true, 150 rupees per day, then it would be 4,500 rupees per month and 54,000 rupees per annum for each home. Please let us take the mathematics on the basis of each lot of 1 crore homes. It would be 54,000 crores. Now, even on an investment of 7,50,000 crores, that would be a good 6.5 to 7% return on investment. I think that would justify that along with the government, it should be that we should have a system of developing such homes and attracting investment from various funds, which can be sovereign funds around the world, and which after a moratorium of about 5 to 10 years would be repaid by them. It's just like what we have done for the metros. But this would be a financially viable model, whereas we are still trying to find an answer that metros have reduced use of carbon fuels and fossil fuels, but are they viable or not is still being decided and it's still being worked out. But homes are something which, as we normally know in India, roti, kapda or makan. India has done a marvelous thing about food. India has done equally well for textiles. I think the next aim as a country to increase economic turnover, to increase GDP, because housing and construction impacts more than 200 industries all over the country. Therefore, it can be a force multiplier for GDP growth. And the income from such rental homes can be easily worked and controlled by what is digitization. We are working towards smart cities, and therefore we need to see that, number one, we provide such homes with an optical fiber connection. Now, we need not worry about that as an investment, because any telecom provider, any digital provider will ensure that they will give the connections free, where you can work it out each day on who is occupying and that they are paying rent or not. And of course, they will if it is so affordable. If such homes, as we thought, 8 crore homes can be provided on a rental basis, it will not only mean ease of mobility to the poor and the young, but it will actually finish the market for slums and unauthorized colonies. It will have many other advantages, like what? Number one, the data generated by such an enterprise can be used all over the country in its planning, whether it means tax revenues or whether it means revenue generation for GST. As you know, introduction of GST has been a spectacular success. In this last month of April 2022, we've collected almost 1,70,000 crores. And this will only go up the greater the economy comes into the recognized white market. So what will be the funds which will be the uses which such housing can be put to? Number one, for making an affordable rent, every one of the DBT schemes, that is the direct beneficiary transfer schemes, can also take into account people staying all over the country in cities, in smart cities, in such affordable rental homes, so that whatever subsidy or whatever cross subsidy has to be given to them can be accounted for and perhaps used even for payment of the rent, so that people get their goods on their own, but see to it that their home stays absolutely paid for and safe. Number two is OFC and telecom services will add to the development of smart cities and digital services. This will itself remove or reduce drastically any thought of subleasing in those homes. So it will become actual users who will be using it. And after all, what can be the best surety and the best security for a family, whether it's the lady of the house or the girl child or small children? It is to live in a pakka home. And this, once such clusters are made, it will be much easier for the government to provide one, last mile connectivity to workplaces, and also plan future educational and health facilities, because such large colonies made pakka, multi-storied, will then ensure that all the social sector services are provided as close as possible. But more than that, you and I can easily envisage that what we see today and what has been the bane of many a city and urban area in India ever since independence is theft of electricity, water, and the ability not to provide gas connections. Once such rental affordable housing schemes are made, it will be the easiest to provide pakka electricity connections, water connections, and gas connections. And therefore, the greater will be the economy operating in the organized sector. As we've already mentioned, educational and medical services could be located near such clusters. And therefore, the greatest benefit of such homes, rental, affordable housing homes, will be to the women and girls who can live in a safe and hygienic environment. The way out, of course, is to show and ensure that all public sector undertakings, till they exist, and the private sector companies could directly pay the rentals for their employees who shift into these homes, while ensuring that their earlier shelters in slums are simultaneously demolished, and that if they are if the rental monthly rental is deducted from their salaries, then it will be much easier for to ensure that these become financially viable enterprises. The net effect will be that infrastructure services and transport services, trade and commerce, economic activity, industrialization, yet maintaining environmental, social, and development goals will be possible, because everyone will be in an identified place and living in a pakka home. I'm quite sure that government can encourage citizens to live in 8 to 10 story buildings for the poor, just as the middle class has readily accepted them over the years. Many a place in many a city in India, which were earlier kothis and bungalows, are now being converted into 8 to 10 story, multi-storied buildings where people stay quite comfortably and, of course, most securely. So I'm quite certain that a new India, which is a safer and a secure India, will become a reality very soon. It will be a very big leap towards a 15, 20 to a $40 trillion economy of the Indian economy at the earliest. And we need to think on how to set up an organized effort to do this, even if it means giving a special charter to the Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs and taking it on a mission mode, so that there is nobody by 2040 who either lives in a slum or in an unauthorized colony, because those are always made by encroaching on public lands, and that's where it leads to environmental degradation. It means to not making proper arrangements for garbage and sewage disposal. And we need to come out of that to provide a healthy and a good life to all our citizens. That's my case.
Rajiv ji, thank you so much. The idea is a very novel idea because, I'm sure the Honorable Minister in charge, Hardeep ji, and Manoj Joshi, the current secretary, they will definitely take cognizance of this particular beautiful interview or monologue that we're having with you. Could be something which could raise the roadmap, which is the objective of this series. Raho versus PMAY, how would you compare?
PMAY is also providing houses for the poor, and whether it be in rural areas or whether it is in urban areas. Raho is a different prospect which needs to be taken on a mission mode like an enterprise, a business enterprise. And it needs to be taken up by ensuring two things. Number one, the cost of land should be as close to zero, because that is where such homes can be made. And since it is going to be on government, state government, central PSU and state PSU land, the ownership will stay with them. Therefore, while all citizens can enjoy living in a home and on a rental basis, the ownership will always remain of the land only with the government. And similarly, it can be on a lease, like it has always been, that anyone coming in the private sector or any person from abroad who's, the sovereign funds from there, we have so many sovereign funds who are coming into India, they will get, with a moratorium and a state guarantee of repayment, they will come to enjoy a reasonable return, which can ensure hundreds of billions of dollars coming into this. It is as big an investment as is going on for the infrastructure development in India. So to me, it is very clear that these two will not only coexist, but their purpose is common. And hence, everyone in every state, in every government must become a part and parcel of it and contribute to citizens living in the best manner possible.
I think the fundamental difference here would be the creation of the demand. Here, creation of the demand is a challenge, I feel, because getting the land in the right area, and then getting all the employees to be agreeing upon by the private company who is willing to pay also, and getting this kind of demand linearly, kind of cultivated. The idea is well curated, but the idea is to cultivate the demand on this. PMAY has independent decision making in the hands of the affordable buyer. But in this case, you need companies, probably from CSR perspective, probably from their, you see public sector companies, they're already having townships wherein they provide such facilities to their employees free of cost or as part of their employment benefits. Now, how do you convince, because they are the biggest employers. Yes, the number one employer in this country by numbers, though outsourcing, is Quest, not a public sector company. Quest is a Bangalore-based outsourcing company, which is the number one employer in this country, followed by the railways. Now, these companies, railways, for Air India, LIC, Coal India, these are the PSUs which have townships which are near their plants where the people are provided facilities, as I just said in my monologue earlier. So how do you get this demand really cultivated from your Rahu perspective?
You answered my question partially, Amit. Like you said, railway junctions. Every railway junction, you have seen it, I have seen it, that either there are single-storied homes or maximum one ground plus one. There is no reason why, like what we have seen in Delhi. If you are from Delhi, I hope you've seen Panchkuya Road. Those were the bungalows of the senior most officers. Today, 10-storied buildings are existing there. Their rental at 1/10 of the salary is always deducted by the provider. Similarly, whenever there is a salary in future for all the private sector companies, and you know that the number of public sector companies will be going down in future. Yet, if we do not provide rental accommodation, you will be forced to multiply the number of slums and unauthorized colonies. And where do slums and unauthorized colonies come up? They only come up in government or PSU lands. The private sector is fairly capable of protecting its land ownership. But it is when the need arises, people shift from sleeping on the roads to jhuggies and slum clusters on public lands. So therefore, it would make plenty of sense to provide land and buildings, land free of cost, buildings to be made to the standards of development which are laid down by CPWD, and 300 square feet. That has also been done. What is a slum rehabilitation program in places like Delhi, which took place way back in time and is still continuing? What about the slum rehabilitation program in cities like Mumbai and other cities of the country, where we always provide homes, but normally they are always given away? It is like the good old scheme, if you recall, for EWS, land parcels used to be given, but when you give it to the poor, it is easier for them to make by selling off whatever they can get in the market. So we need to provide such a large number of homes that they do not get sold back in the market. And in
Those
fact,
schemes
the
are more,
demand
those
exists.
schemes, so those schemes are having a retail backbone, as part of their entire, kind of system. But in this case, you're looking at an institutional collaboration, because institutionally, unless you collaborate, those kind of, making it smooth for the builders, and then also acquisition of the free land, because the government is also banking upon the land bank resources.
Yes, it is. But if you start selling off every piece of land at the highest rate possible, then sorry, you won't get homes. If you don't get homes, how will you develop cities? So therefore, it is not a chicken and egg story. It is something which you already have seen. Which
Any
city in India?
success stories from the private sector perspective?
It's not only just a private sector. I think the government will have to take a lead, just as it is doing under PMAY. The government will have to take a lead. It will have to be a mission mode. How do you think the metro rails have been established? We in the late 90s or mid 90s had discussed about the metro rail system, and we had said that will it be a viable system or not? It would have never come up. Yet we have found finance from abroad. We have found finance at a very low rate from abroad. We have also found finance with a moratorium. That is how the first metro in Delhi was made.
I'm
So
sure the government will take note of your suggestion, because this is going to be a very important source of, development. I mean, revenue is just a part of development, source of development for the country,
that's
because
the,
foreign funds can flow in. There can be a lot of investments which can be directed towards a particular initiative. And even if pilot wise, this can start somewhere in some of the states which are in good terms with the central government, this will be definitely something which can be scaled up in the years to come. And it can obviously work. It can obviously work simultaneously along with the other flagship schemes like the PMAY and others. Now, Mr. Talwar, we can continue this, because I am not an expert on this field. You are. And this is going to be just a curtain raiser on a subject like this. Probably we'll have another show on this, wherein we'll have all other technical experts also involved along with you. And this can be taken forward along with the ministry officials as well, because we have these people visiting the forum quite often, almost every day. This is the first interaction we've had with you. This will definitely be a curtain raiser, as I said, and I look forward to more interactions with you in the days to come.
yes.
So thank you so much.
Thank you, Amit. And I only want to say that yes, in India, everyone debates very well, everyone argues very well. We have to change the mindset of the nation. We have to provide homes and housing. India has done it before through cooperatives. Imagine what happened with Dr. Kurian. And today, India is the largest producer of milk. And look at the sugar cooperatives. India is the second largest producer of sugar in the world. So similarly, why should we be banished to staying in homes which are slums or unauthorized? They're neither hygienic nor do they provide facilities to the residents. Why not make a new India when we are doing so in the next 25 years, where nobody stays in a slum, everyone stays with a pakka roof, and there is no migration issue, whatever may happen, like what we saw in the last 2 years. Thank you.
Mr. Talwar, as you just now said, any new idea, anything new, we should always be positive and constructive towards it. Criticism can go on and then we'll reach nowhere. and we can reach nowhere. In this case also, you cited the example of Dr. Varghese Kurian. Yeah, he created opportunities to earn. Here we are creating opportunities for them to stay, but at the same time they have to pay. So we'll have to strike a balance between stay and pay, and opportunities should be balanced with government kind of willingness. The willingness of the government has to be there, along with in conjunction with the industry doyens like you. Only then this kind of schemes can take wings. We look forward, and we hope that these kind of discussions we have are going to pave a roadmap, or kind of give a insight to the policymakers to take cognizance of such new ideas, and invite people like you to take these schemes forward at a national level. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you so much.